What's happening, fandoms?
Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here,
We react to music videos and shows.
today we're continuing with our series where we're checking out Eric Voss and the new Rockstars crew breakdown of Mandalorian episodes. We're most of the way through this season, season 3. Just a couple more episodes left, and this was a fun episode.
Love it.
There was lots of Arabesh and lots of things that he's going to break down for us,
cameos.
I'm sure. And I'm sure he's going to talk about all the cameos, of course. But I'm excited to learn what we missed in episode 6 of The Mandalorian. Let's dive into it.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of The Mandalorian season. Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 6, Chapter 22, Guns for Hire. A Clone Wars throwback vibe that ends with Dooku Love and Doc Brown getting shocked with 1.21 gigawatts from Tom Holland's brothers, Mon Calamari Romeo, to Arabesh and Mandoa translations and hidden sound effects. I got you covered with the scene-by-scene breakdown of all the Star Wars Easter eggs.
Love that one.
We open with the Quarren freighter. Now, Quarrens are the amphibious species who share the planet Mon Cala with the Mon Calamari, and Mon Calamari cruisers like Home 1, that was Admiral Akbar's flagship in Return of the Jedi, were constructed from aquatic cities on the planet of Mon Cala, so presumably this freighter could also go underwater, thus its submarine-looking design and its curved hull. I also just like that they have the same color and fin shape of the Quarren head. It'd be like us piloting space with ships that look like our heads. Quarrens and Mon Calamari have historically been at war with each other, and in the first 3 episodes of Clone Wars Season 4, we got to see a lot of that, where the Quarrens were backed by separatists, but the Mon Calamari were able to reject the separatist influence and reach a peace on the planet. Now, these Quarrens are bypassing trade routes to the planet Trask, that was a water-covered planet that we saw in Chapter 11, the last episode of The Mandalorian, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. She also directed one of the best episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. We meet Captain Shuggoth, who's played by Christine Adams from Black Lightning, and she has a cocktail that is poured into her tank for her to eat that little fishy. I might be the only person who notices, but when she eats the fish, the water swish sound effect is from the same audio asset library as Crash Bandicoot Warped when Crash spins in the underwater levels.
What?
Now, why does the captain get to be in a water tank while the other Quarren have to be in open air? I just like to think it's a cool ceremonial thing for Quarren captains to be more in tune with their home waters. We find out she's in love with this Mon Calamari prince, played by Harry Holland. That's Tom Holland's brother. Fun little trivia point here. Christine Adams is 28. Harry Holland is 24. Nice. Moff Gideon's Imperial Light Cruiser fills the frame, a recurring Star Wars visual since the first shot of A New Hope. But this tells us that after the events of the Season 2 finale, Gideon's ship was left with Bo-Katan's group, including Axe Woves. Now remember, Axe Woves was in Bo-Katan's group when we first met them in live action on Trask, and he's joined here by Costco Reeves. Now Shuggoth has to break up with her boyfriend, and they share this romantic kiss, her tentacles caressing his face. It's so sweet and so romantic. Also, it's nice to see one Quarren on the show who isn't a total asshole. Bo-Katan, Din Djarin, Grogu, and R5 take the gauntlet to Plazir 15 with a glass dome city structures like what the Mandalorians had on Mandalore. Now, the word Plazir means peaceful, and with its dome and monorail, Epcot definitely seems to be an inspiration here.
I was going to say that too, like an Epcot.
With the same framing as it did over Sundari in Chapter 18, which is what I hope happens to this planet. Their ship is commandeered by Plazir 15 Mission Control.
Yeah, like a bad ringtone.
Welcome to Plazir 15, the Outer Rim's only remaining direct democracy.
So by direct democracy, they're referring to a political system where, instead of a republic where the
every
masses
single
elect representatives to
person
make
votes
decisions for them, all decisions are instead made by popular vote. Like how in the United States, some states will let residents vote on a wide range of ballot measures, like should we build a bridge? Put it to a vote. Should we reduce sales taxes? Put that to a vote. As opposed to, just vote for a city council or governor or senate, and they'll represent your interests. Plazir 15 makes the case that separatist-era direct democracy is at least worth trying, since the Republic and the New Republic now, and the military dictatorship of the Empire in between, have all failed people. I like how Bo-Katan's screen reads the Mandoa language control override. They're greeted by a black-plated RA-7 protocol droid and astromech droid, typically seen on Imperial ships. Now, the hyperlink monorail pod voice cites Article 9 of the Coruscant Accords, which was also cited in Chapter 19 in reference to the prohibition on cloning research. These were cited at the end of the Galactic Civil War, before the New Republic capital was moved to Chandrilla. But this voice is actually a cameo by Catherine Tabor, the voice of Padme in Clone Wars. They begrudgingly scan their chain codes, these orange-tinted holograms of Mandoa text from their gauntlets, like what Boba Fett showed in Chapter 14 to prove his Mandalorian ancestry from his clone father Jango and his teacher Jasper Muriel. Inside, the palace guards are wearing repurposed stormtrooper armor, and we see some colorful fauna flapping around overhead in this kind of atrium space. There's a tank above their heads with an aquatic creature that you get a much better look at in the closing credits concept art. It's from this tank that they're all taking little sippy sips through these hoses. And there's a little Nuna that jumps on the table there. And sitting at this table Patrol is an assortment of Rhodians, Bits, Ithorians, Celestins, that frog-like race of the lady in chapters 10 and 11, and at the head of the table, Captain Bombardier and the Duchess, played by Jack Black and Lizzo. And look, I get it. These cameos did make this feel like a bit of an SNL sketch, or remember when Jack Black and Cloris Leachman cameoed in that in-universe movie in the Super Bowl episode of The Office? Hey, kudos to Jack Black and Lizzo for committing to the bits and not like winking at the camera or anything, but they're just larger-than-life presences. And casting them and not disguising them under alien makeup just took me out of it a bit. I think Star Wars can pull off this stunt casting.
I thought they did a good job, actually.
Doses like Tim Meadows or Thundercat in the Book of Boba Fett, or the comedic character actors who really commit to the dirty scamps who definitely fit in this world, like Amy Sedaris as Peli Motto, Bill Burr as Mix Mayfeld, when Stephen F. Root played that water hoarder in the Book of Boba Fett. And I don't think I would feel this way if it was just Lizzo or just Jack Black, but these two huge stars together was just kind of overkill. Like a little example of this, listen closely to what Jack Black is singing in the scene.
Honey, do you love me?
He's singing the song, "Do You Love Me?" from Fiddler on the Roof. It's a show tune and it's in Star Wars.
We missed it.
But musically, I do like that we hear this flute music when they walk in.
Join us! Come!
I'm pretty sure this is the flute music of Lizzo herself, because she is so good at that flute. I guess the only way I can defend this casting is maybe as a meta indictment on the perils of direct democracy. Like Bombardier says, they're both royals and elected leaders, meaning the citizens of Plaza 15 elected pop culture celebrity dimwits as their leaders, kind of like in Mike Judge's excellent film Idiocracy. But I'm not convinced this episode proved they intended this to be satirical political commentary. I just think Filoni and Favreau wanted some goofy Clone Wars filler episode hijinks with some fun cameos. I mean, whatever, I've gone on this for too long. I do really like the way Jack Black pronounces the word program.
And thanks to the New Republic Amnesty Program, I personally oversaw the program.
Bombardier refers to the Bantha in the room, which is ironic because they used an elephant named Margie to play the Bantha in A New Hope. And notice how he has an Amnesty Orbesh A badge like Elia Kane and Dr. Pershing had. This serves as a literal scarlet letter that they must wear to show their past crimes. The Duchess' seat has a hologram feathery plumage that follows her around, making it a kind of throne or a crown for wherever she happens to be sitting, as the Duchess, wherever she is sitting, is the de facto throne. They task Bo-Katan and Din Djarin with investigating some droid malfunctions, using the fact that as Mandalorians, they could carry their weapons inside the city, promising to legally recognize Mandalore to the New Republic. But for Din Djarin, his interests are more simple than that.
You had me at battle droids.
Now, what I'm struggling to get about this is that part of Din Djarin's character development over these past seasons has been a gradual forgiveness of droids. Like, he definitely hated them in the pilot, coming from his traumatic childhood when B2 series battle droids killed his parents. But the first episodes of this season showed him going to great lengths to revive IG-11, someone he considered a friend. So why does he suddenly now hate droids again? They meet Security Commissioner Hellgate, played by Christopher Lloyd. He says the droids were planned to be scrapped to Carthan. Those are the chop fields where they found Mace Mayfeld in chapter 15. And from here, the episode becomes a mystery detective procedural, like iRobot, or an episode of Law & Order that includes casting a semi-big name as someone the detectives interview early on, who inevitably ends up being the bad guy. The Orbesh on the security screen reads camera 703 to 739, and above that, Sector 7G, which is where Homer Simpson works in The Simpsons. We see a sanitation droid who tosses garbage everywhere, like a sanitation worker who's just really having a rough day. We see a battle droid who throws clothes around, and a valet droid who hijacks a speeder and runs it directly into the wall. All of these very much first world problems. I love it. There's a COO series cook droid, though, like we saw in Navarro in chapter 17 and in Jabba's palace in Book of Boba Fett, and it got away, but it sounds like he chops those people to death. And in this room, the Orbesh sigil on the back wall reads Plazir 15.
Okay,
the
makes sense.
Of the planet, kind of like how in our buildings we have walls that say Earth. Hellgate says that the citizens voted to have no interruption to droid services, that they cannot live without it, much like the future humans of Pixar's WALL-E. He says that they spend all their time with the arts and voting on a bunch of stuff, which is what happens in a direct democracy. You wouldn't have time to do anything else other than to vote, and I guess to take a bunch of improv classes. In the Ugnaughts droid shop, we see parts of B2 battle droids, B1 battle droids, protocol droids, and Ralph McQuarrie's original protocol droid design that this season has brought back a few times, like that taxi droid on Coruscant. Bo-Katan insults them by saying their machines are malfunctioning and that they may not have heard much down here, but that Ugnaught says that the tunnels are really the central nervous system of the city, something Mando can relate with as a former sewer dweller. And I like this. This is my favorite scene of the episode because it demonstrates that Din Djarin has changed over the course of the series, that he's been affected by his past relationship with Kuiil, and it's now given him a diplomatic tactic that Bo-Katan lacks. Mando kicks a marching B2 like the Boston Dynamics
very
engineers
much
who
like
that robot
the Boston
dog.
Dynamics.
Terrible idea, because you know they'll never forget
you know that?
This is also like in iRobot when Will Smith goes robot by robot, shooting
Yeah.
some, threatening them until he outs a malfunctioning rogue, leading to this amazing chase through the streets. Now, the B1 series droid Foreman is a voice by Matthew Wood, longtime Lucasfilm sound editor who voiced General Grievous and Bib Fortuna and all the animated series battle droids. He always does such great work, but I think my favorite thing that he ever said was,
General Kenobi.
Now, there are some interesting contrasts here between Din Djarin and Bo-Katan during this chase. Like, Din jumps over the barrels with his own strength, Bo-Katan uses her jet thrusters, and when that B2 droid throws a crate, Bo-Katan uses her thrusters to blast ahead to keep moving, whereas Din turns around to make sure no one was hurt. And yes, they pass a ton of neon Orbesh signs. There's a yellow one reading Joanno Cafe, a white one reading Open. Right before that, there was a mouse droid scurrying around. There are some vertical pink signs reading The Orbit and Nightclub next to it. I like to hit up that place for a drink. Now, as the crate flies over their heads, over on the left side of the screen, there's a droid shop with a pink sign reading Premium Droid Rentals. There's some other signs for bars or clubs called Hades Dog and Apocalypse right beneath that, flickering in for coming. Again, I hope this is foreshadowing the apocalyptic doom of this planet, especially since after this episode, it no longer has hired guns to defend it. The speeder that the B2 jumps on looks like one with the body of the speeder that Han drives on Corellia in Solo, a Star Wars story, but has the grill of Luke Skywalker's speeder in A New Hope. They run past 4 speeder bikes, all white, which might be a meta nod to the M&M colored versions of these bikes that people complained about in the Book of Boba Fett. Same bikes, just without the distracting colors. There's a yellow sign reading Spa, and another yellow road sign that looks like warning about speed. So Din ends the chase by tackling the B2 through a window, and Bo-Katan disables his shoulders from behind. A few constable droids roll out.
It is a crime scene. Thank you for standing back.
Yeah, those sirens are the same siren sound effects from Minority Report. Their hollow police tape reads caution in Orbesh and in another language. And reflected on the ground from the blue neon sign above is Orbesh for dive bar. As they walk down the street, another Orbesh bar sign reads flaming lizard. There's some spinning text overhead in the hologram, including the word quality, that's in blue, and beneath in purple, gravity scooters. I really think plugging those white scooters that we saw before. And then they turn down the alley to the resistor bar. In blue across the street behind them, I think that says refreshments. Then there are 2 of those Macquarie protocol droids hitting on each other in the alley, and they enter the resistor bar. Inside, I love this gag with several flasks clinking, but they're all being carried by the multiple hands of one COO series cook droid. Our man is like quadruple fisting. Can't blame him. They've seen a lot. We see an antennaed rickshaw droid that we saw at the end of Book of Boba Fett. Some RX series droids, like, you know, Rex from Star Tours. He's also in the bar in Galaxy's Edge. They're playing a card game of Sabacc. We see a bunch of protocol droids, astromech droids, EV series droids, RA7 droids, B1 battle droids. But the bartender is voiced by Seth Gable, the actor from Fringe, Salem, and Nip Tuck. He says these droids fear replacement, which is what happened to these droids when the Separatists were defeated by the Republic/Empire. At this point, they were defeated by the Clone Trooper army, but then these Clone Troopers were replaced by human recruits. The bartender says they all drink Nepenthe, which is a viscous lubricant that protects from wear and delivers refreshing subparticles. Now, the word Nepenthe comes from a forgetfulness drug in Greek mythology, translating to that which chases away sorrow, making this a really sad drink for these poor droids and the horrors they've witnessed. We learn that all the malfunctioning droids drank from the same batch of it. A bad batch, you might say. And they go to a droid morgue. This lab tech is played by Jen Kober, who showed up in the Righteous Gemstones.
That's why she looks
uses
familiar.
a white medical probe droid to extract the Nepenthe. Dr. Pershing used one of these on Grogu in Chapter 3, and Darth Vader used one of these on Leia in A New Hope. As with the B2 droid earlier, this one's light turns red, reminding us of Hal in 2001: A Space Odyssey and Otto in Wall-E. All these may link back to that red button on Hellgate's desk, which he later reveals is actually a failsafe switch to turn all of the droids hostile. He actually may be activating each of these droids every time Din and Bo get closer and closer to finding the truth. But Din brings this one down with the dark saber. So they continue analyzing the subparticles, and the text says that they were made by the Techno Union. This was part of the Separatists in the prequels. It was one that just looked like a big dumb robot who sat at the table. These represent a group of tech corporations who were eventually taken over by the Empire, and you actually see their guild sigil showing up in the corner when we see that ID screen of Hellgate later. There's a lot of Orbesh on this screen. First, on the right column, that Orbesh translates to scope active, zoom level, and controls. And then they realize that each of the nanobots has more writing on it, a chain code that is revealed on a green screen with a ton of Orbesh text. And since we're seeing it from behind, we got to reverse it, or you can just look at it from the text point of view. The big words translate to code deciphering, search complete, but then you see words like commandinav, and the words at this point just start to be gibberish. I'm pretty sure I translated as much as I could, and then I just lost my mind because it's all just like random letters. But the final ID screen for Hellgate is an amazing troll from the VFX artists for us nerds. It translates to, "This means nothing. However, fans may and they spelled however with a P. I think that might have been a mistake. But it says, however, fans may interpret the hell out of it. CSI FTW for the win. I love it. Thank you for throwing that in there for us. So when they confront Commissioner Hellgate, he outs himself as a dogmatic separatist and a Dooku supporter. And Christopher Lloyd is so good at this. He's one of the best actors to reveal himself as a villain, famously as Judge Doom in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Remember my voice? Said it like this. Hellgate rants.
Count Dooku was a visionary. He was cut short in his prime by the Jedi and forces.
Bo-Katan cut him off right as he was about to say, cut in short in his prime by the Jedi Enforcer Anakin Skywalker. And mixed into that zap, I'm pretty sure, is a bit of the singe sound effect we heard when Anakin cut Dooku short. Do it.
Forces.
And Christopher Lloyd sells this so well. He's also one of the best actors to just play electrocution between Doc Brown and Uncle Fester. So the Duchess and her husband are playing a croquet type game with these things that roll up. It reminds me of Alice in Wonderland when the Queen of Hearts plays croquet and Grogu uses the Force to help her cheat. But Marty calls Hellgate despicable and he responds,
if that isn't the Quacta calling the stifling slime.
Wow, what an insult.
In season 2 finale, when Boba Fett said this to Costco Reeves.
That isn't the Quacta calling the stifling slimy.
And in the book of Boba Fett from Cad Bane.
If that's not the Quacta calling the stifling slimy.
The Duchess exiles Hellgate to the moon.
I didn't realize we'd heard that so many times.
A droid carries a tray with the key to the city. This is the same LEV series service droid that was chased around Jabba's palace in the book of Boba Fett. Now the key to the city actually kind of looks like a modified toy Millennium Falcon. I might be wrong about that, but it looks like something specific. And then she knights Grogu, I guess for helping her cheat.
You are now a knight of the Ancient Order of Independent Regency.
Yeah, that French horn theme is the Grogu music that played when Mando and Grogu reunited. So they head out to the Mandalorian camp where they find Axe Woves. He has some banners in Mandoa that my buddy Ryan Airy from Screen Crush says translate to Vizsla. I'm not so sure about that though, because it looks like a lot more than 6 letters. House Vizsla wouldn't be represented here. They're with the Children of the Watch. It looked like 13 letters. I was thinking maybe Night Owls. Maybe this is the way. But honestly, I translated it upside down, backwards, forwards. It just looks like gibberish, I think. But cool Easter egg here. In this yard is that ship that they stole from Trask in Chapter 11. They keep everything they take. So Bo-Katan ends up defeating Axe Woves in a duel, but he still discounts Din Djarin as an impure foundling, not a drop of Mandalorian blood in him, which makes Axe Woves a bit of a racist. So to win over the skeptics, Din Djarin uses some Elder Wand bullshit logic about what happened in the mines of Mandalore and how Bo-Katan slayed his captor, who had disarmed him of the Darksaber. And you know what? It works on everybody. But I love this final shot. Bo-Katan ignites the Darksaber, but unlike the moment in Rebels when she held it over her head, here she keeps it lower at her side, as if to show she has now learned the weight of the responsibility of wielding this blade. A reminder to subscribe to our new channel, The Deep Dive, and you can support our channel by grabbing some merch at nerdriot.shop. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EAVoss, follow New Rockstars, and subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Thanks, Eric.
It's quite heavy, right? That's why she didn't hold it like that.
The Darksaber it attunes itself to a person, or that person attunes themselves to the Darksaber, and when you're not well attuned to it, it's very, very heavy.
Because Mando, it didn't work out for Mando last time.
Yeah, Din Djarin had a lot of trouble with it. He was like dragging it along the ground because it was just so heavy for him. He was not well matched with it. But Bo-Katan, when she has used it in the past, she just whips it around
like crazy.
And it
was nothing for her.
It's nothing. I knew there was going to be a ton of translation in this one, but I loved the CSI for the win little Easter egg that the showrunners put in. That's very cool.
Some of those were used.
Oh yeah, and Eric pointed out the thing that I did is that the structure of these little adventures on this planet were like a detective, film noir, criminal procedural, Law and Order CSI type plot where you track down a couple of clues and it leads back to the bad guy, right? Like, and then you get the forensics lab and you do the enhanced thing and you find all the clues, right? Which is total nonsense, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
But so that was my favorite part. I think he really kind of downplayed Lizzo and Jack Black a little bit. Like I think he really kind of shit on that a bit. I really liked that performance.
Cameo.
I thought that they did a really good job of not overplaying themselves. And you know what?
I really enjoyed it.
Jack Black has a huge personality, and he settled into a character that didn't have all of that.
Right.
And I thought he did an amazing job. So Eric felt some kind of way about that. I disagree. I think Jack and Lizzo did an amazing job. He didn't dump on Christopher Lloyd's performance at all. I thought he also did a great job.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah, overall, a brilliant episode in my opinion. I really appreciate all the work Eric does and all that translation. I would never go through all of that, and he does it himself, which is just nuts. So my hat's off to him. If you guys aren't already a fan and a subscriber at New Rockstars, you should go and check them out. We have a link, but we'll leave it there.
Yeah, thank you again for tuning into our channel. Thank you for liking our videos, and also please subscribe to our channel to get our small and mighty channel grow. Thank you again, and see you in the next video.